My name is Mark Weinberg. I'm the Dean of the George Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs at Ohio University. I wanted to start by thanking all of the finalists and the judges for their participation in the 4th annual NASPAA Voinovich Public Innovation Challenge. This annual competition was developed as a collaboration between NASPAA's Executive Director, Laurel McFarland, and the Dean of the Voinovich School, to honor our friend and colleague, Senator George Voinovich, by highlighting new strengths for bettering student education and addressing unmet needs. Senator Voinovich valued innovation in public service, while at the same time raising up public servants who practiced it. When we launched the challenge in honor of Senator Voinovich and public service innovation, we had no idea of the historic nature of the challenges that our nation, state, and communities and colleges would face with COVID. In Senator Voinovich's farewell address to the US Senate in 2010, he stated, "I'm proud of the contribution I've made to the country in the area of human capital and government management." Okay. We're going to need to draw on a reservoir of all of our diverse talent, leadership, and management to respond to the challenges we're now facing. This panel highlights how 5 universities have stepped up to this challenge. It's now my pleasure to welcome the MC for this panel, Professor Jason Jolly. Professor Jolly is a professor of economic development and public administration at the Voinovich School at the Ohio University. He directs the MPA program and has provided wonderful leadership for the growth and the quality of the program, as well as transforming the school's economic development partnerships. He's truly an engaged scholar, dedicated teacher, and public servants. He exemplifies the best in public service that Senator Voinovich valued. Jason.
Thank you, Dean Weinberg. So I am going to introduce our panelists, presenters, as well as our judges, and then we will turn it over to Alex Murray to get started. So we have 4 presenters today, 4 contestants, 4 very great presentations. We could not select 3, so we had to pick 4. They were so great with their quality. Rebecca Brenner and Danielle Eiseman from Cornell are going to be our first presenters. Michael Kern, who is an associate professor at Washington State University and also affiliated with the University of Washington's Evans School, is going to be our second presenter. Peter Stanley Federman from Indiana University-Purdue University, Indianapolis, and Cali Curley from the University of Miami are going to go third. And then Christopher Wyczalkowski, and Christopher, I hope I got that right. I actually wrote it down phonetically as you gave it to me. Is from Georgia State University, is going to be our final presenter. And we do have judges who are going to be judging this competition. Alex Murray, who's our Director of Online Academic Programs here at the Voinovich School, is one of our judges. Sarah Renfret, who is from the University of Montana and is the MPA Director there and was our winner last year. Keon Lee, from the Director of the ASCU School at Florida State University and a proud Ohio University alum, is also going to be one of our judges. And we're supposed to have Dean David Van Slyke from the Maxwell School at Syracuse. He doesn't look like he's quite gotten on yet, so hopefully he'll be joining us as well.
Having some technical difficulties, Jason.
Okay.
But I am trying to get him in through my cell phone, so he may not be visible, but we're hopeful he'll be here.
Okay, sounds great. Thank you, Kate. All right, well, I'll turn it over to Alex Murray to share his screen, and we'll get started with our first presentation. And just as a reminder to everyone, I will be keeping time. You have 5 minutes. Please keep your own time. I will signal at 1 minute. And then for the judges, we only have 2 minutes for questions.
Hello, Dean Van Slyke. I'm very sorry for the misunderstanding, but we're just about to start the presentation now. Thanks.
All right. Okay. And so 2 minutes for questions from the judges at max. You can type those in the chat window if you like, and we can manage it that way, or you can ask them orally. All right, Alex, I'll let you take it over.
Great. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen now, and please let me know if you are having any difficulties seeing the screen. Also, as some of you stated earlier, do let me know when you need me to advance the screen forward in your presentation. Also, just a reminder to all the judges as well, right before you start, I put my email murraya@ohio.edu in the chat window. So all the judges will email me their final results for each group when they're done. So without further ado, Cornell University.
Great, thank you, Alex. Good morning, everyone. I'm Danielle Eiseman. And
I'm Rebecca Brenner.
And we're from Cornell University. Our project is called Pathways for Empowering Community Resilience. And the current global pandemic has really shown us that for, oh, Alex, yeah, if you could stay there, thank you. So our project is called Pathways for Empowering Community Resilience. And the current global pandemic has really shown us that, for one, many communities lack the resources to effectively plan and prepare for unforeseen events, whether it's a natural disaster or an outbreak of highly contagious viral infections. And secondly, the pandemic has also shown us that students, especially underrepresented students, lack the opportunities to engage in service-based learning projects, especially projects that help them or empower them to apply the concepts and skills from the classroom to the real world. And this has been even more difficult with the downscaling of internships and jobs in response to COVID-19. And so we wanted to create an opportunity that gives underrepresented students a high impact professional experience while also meeting unmet local, national, and global needs. Needs such as staff that have the know-how to prepare a disaster management plan, staff that have the time to write a grant for economic or disaster relief, and also just knowing or having equitable access to funding sources. And that's exactly what our project does. Help students, help communities meet those unmet needs. Now, Rebecca will tell you how we plan to do that. So next slide, please, Alex. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex, for moving the slide. So our project looks to improve equity in learning through community development. And ultimately, we want to create a competition that's called Resilience Planning for Equity. And so as we go through this slide, I'm going to move clockwise through it, starting at 1 o'clock. So if you want to follow along. So the goal here is to build capacity in both students and communities. And we plan to reach out to the most vulnerable, both socioeconomically and disaster-related communities, and try to give them opportunities to help them to build resilience plans that they may not have access to, for the reasons Danielle previously described. At the same time, we want to reach out and provide opportunities for underrepresented students and give them professional experience. And so ultimately, the students will be competing, and what they're competing on is to build resilience implementation plans as the competition. So how are we going to do that? Support students and communities that currently don't have access to do that themselves. So first of all, we're going to create the setting of having the competition and the platform. The other piece that we're going to add to this is have student project managers. And so these students are students who are interested in public administration or public policy, and they're going to serve as liaisons between the communities and the student competition teams. And the competition teams are the one building the disaster resilient plans or meeting what those communities really need. So in order to do the matchup, we're going to have an advisory board that's led by students and faculty to match the communities with the specific competition teams to get skill sets and interests. We're going to manage expectations by using that same advisory board to establish clear expectations for both the community engagement and the student deliverables, because the communities we'll be working with are not going to maybe have a lot of space to manage those relationships themselves, or maybe they will. We'll give them the space to do that, but we'll have that support. As far as delivery, the students will have a specific resilience plan that will include both recommendations and implementation plan and evaluation, ways to evaluate if those needs that the communities have established have been met. For the competition phase, and I think this is important, they'll be judging those resilience plans. the competition gives the students an incentive, but it also gives a frame so that they will be judged mostly on feasibility and meeting the community needs, but also add professionalism and innovation in there, because those are important, but we want to make sure to drive that the community needs are being met first. And then maybe the most important part of the competition is to create an online portal. And so we can take all of the different plans for replication and put them up there so other communities can access these plans and see if they can implement them as well. That's the end of our time. So Alex, would you mind moving 2 slides forward to our timeline during Q&A? We were just going to leave one more forward. So we we're going to just have that up while we took Q&A, but this is just a timeline. And thank you.
Okay, questions from our judges?
Who are the target of this program?
So the target is that's a great question. The target is twofold. One is for communities that are experiencing disasters and don't have so one thing, this is the way that Danielle and I came up with this idea, is that we know that there's all this funds and money available to communities if they have a planner and if they have capacity to apply for these funds, these resilience funds. There's tons of funds out there. We have ones in New York State, they're awesome, but only the communities that have the resources to apply to them are getting them. And so the target really is both to provide the resources, those resources, and make it more equitable for those communities to have access to them. Also, because we know that there are underrepresented students who are not gaining the professional experience to enter into that field, and so it's a dual target to also give students that access and create project management experience for the advisory team.
Thank you.
Is there any other questions?
Other questions? All right, thank you all very much. We are a minute
Thank
ahead,
you.
so that's great. So Alex, let you go into the next presentation. Thank you both.
All right, and we are ready to go.
Okay. Can everybody hear me all right? Great. I will go ahead and get started. So thank you very much. And Alex, you can go ahead and move to the next slide. I'm Michael Kern from Washington State University, University of Washington. So Seattle was the first hotspot for COVID-19 in the United States. It was also the first success story for how leaders from across sectors could come together to flatten the curve. And Alex, if you could click one more time, but we're by no means out of the woods. And responses to COVID in Washington, while containing many successes, also have highlighted the need for improvements across in cross-sector collaboration, systems thinking, engagement of diverse interests, effective crisis decision-making, innovation to address policy challenges, infrastructure gaps, prepare for new and recurring emergencies, and recovery. So Washington's really at this key strategic point where decisions by leaders at many levels are going to determine the effectiveness of ongoing response to, and it's really important that a wide cross-sector of elected and appointed officials and other leaders share and understand what's being learned. So if you could go to the next slide. Thank you. That's where we come in at the Ruckelhaus Center. We're a joint effort of Washington's 2 research universities, hosted by the Evans School at the University of Washington and by WSU Extension, which also provides our administration. You can see our mission and vision on the slide. And we're named for our founder, who is a remarkable figure and public-private sector leader and recently passed away, Presidential Medal of Freedom winner. If you could go to the next slide, I'd appreciate that. Our advisory board is comprised of prominent local, state, regional, and tribal public, private, and NGO sector leaders who represent a broad range of constituencies, including many of those who led and are still leading that response to navigating the crisis, the COVID crisis in Washington. And they, along with our faculty and staff, agreed that our center's expertise and credibility could be used to improve preparedness, recovery, and resilience in identifying, synthesizing, integrating, and applying knowledge and expertise gained in our state during the response to the pandemic. So in conversations over the spring and summer with a broad range of leaders at our universities and our governor's office, state legislature, agencies, private and NGO sectors, really affirmed that idea. Next slide, please. So our center has a 15-year foundation of success on related work that provides credibility and led to enthusiasm and confidence across sectors for our center as a third-party entity leading an objective look at lessons being learned. I don't have time to go through these different projects, but I wanted to make people aware of them and tee this up for possible discussion in Q&A, and there's these and a lot of other examples. So we could go to the next slide, please. So to get specific on the project goals, and if you could click once, this project is iterative discussions have led to a project with these goals: a pre-assessment followed by a comprehensive learning effort that identifies and shares key insights from Washington's responses to the COVID-19 pandemic. Next click, please. Providing decision makers at the state, local, tribal, regional, and private governance levels information to continually inform and improve decisions and that relate to recovery and resilience. Next click. This is going to be about identifying intersections and interconnections between what's being learned in multiple sectors. Next click, please. Using those learnings to adapt, innovate, and stimulate new approaches and systemic solutions. And then one more click on this page, please. And that's applying throughout this whole effort, both the pre-assessment and the comprehensive learning effort, a race, equity, and social justice lens, including focusing on disproportional impacts. And this is really important because, as I'm sure you all know, this pandemic has brought out in stark relief that impacts are very disproportional, both in Washington and elsewhere. So you can see this is a really ambitious project. And if you could go to the next slide, please. In terms of the description of the project, that pre-assessment, if you could click once, that's going to happen over the next 6 to 9 months. And then if you could click again, that comprehensive assessment, that's really a 2-year effort. So it's a very comprehensive assessment, identifying priorities, questions, and strategies. Click again. Partnership with our version of the National Academy of Sciences. Click again. We don't want to conflict with standard after action reports by the National Guard, Emergency Management Division, etc. Click again. Focus areas informed by a wide range of leaders. Click again. Our universities and the Washington State Academy would serve on focus area teams. And then click again. We want to bring in outside expertise for that race, equity, and social justice component. And then if you could just click through the next 3 slides. I didn't figure I'd have time when the time was curtailed, but during the Q&A or if the judges' questions might be interested in knowing about outcomes or components, I've got those teed up and I'm happy to ask, or more information about our center's services and how those might fit in. That's the final slide. If you could just click through that. And that's what I've got to say. So thank you very much. And I'm happy to answer questions. So very ambitious effort.
Questions from the judges?
Yeah, have you already reached out to stakeholders, or do you already have those connections?
Yeah, we have a lot of those connections. Unfortunately, our advisory board, that photo was just a subset. There's about 45 members on our board, and they really are kind of a who's who of credibility across our state. So just in interactions with our board, we start to touch a lot of those sectors. But we've had discussions with university leaders, on our board, and et cetera, former governor and tech leaders, corporate leaders, the COVID czar in our state, the governor's office, legislative leaders, NGO reps, philanthropy leaders, diversity, equity, and social justice leaders, public health sector, food systems, tribal leaders, and lots of other folks we've already spoken with, and we're working on the next kind of concentric circles. So yeah, lots of stakeholder conversations, and that's kind of the core of the work that we do. You can see on the services slides that going from pre-assessments and initial consultations to wider situation assessments is kind of classic Ruckelhaus Center. So yeah, absolutely.
Who does all those assessments?
So the center is designed as a university-based neutral third party. We have mediation and facilitation and assessment expertise. So that's exactly the reason why all these parties felt like we would be an ideal third party to come in and gather all these interests who are, just burning the midnight oil in responding to the pandemic, and they don't want to lose the lessons that they are learning, and so they want an entity that's skilled at third-party assessment, like ourselves, to come in and not slow them down from their responding, but as they continue to respond and then they start to think about recovery and resilience, we can be there, interviewing them, doing key assessment interviews, bringing information together, asking them semi-structured interviews, both individual, group interviews, other types of assessment instruments, and helping them not to lose that information and put pieces together, to help them inform, not be so siloed, because they're definitely, although they're working more cross-sectorally than they have in the past, also help them to work, not to get too siloed and put those things together. So that is really our area of expertise.
Okay, thank you, Michael. We are now over time on the Q&A, so we should move to the next presentation. That was a great presentation. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just as Alex is getting this up, a quick bit of housekeeping for the judges. Please do email your scores for each presentation to Alex. His email is there in the chat. And Kate, maybe you can convey that to Dean Van Slyke, so he has that as well.
Yes, and he also received the PowerPoints.
Okay,
so
great.
he is following along.
Okay, great. All right, Alex.
All right, next we have IUPU and University of Miami. So we will go ahead and let me know if you all can see the slide, okay?
Yeah, we can.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, everybody, and thank you, Alex. My name is Curley. My colleague is Peter Federman. We are really excited to talk with you today about our COVID-19 Executive Orders project. Slide, please. There we go. So this is an example or mock-up, if you will, of what our dashboard looks like. Our project is really meant to take these executive orders that have been adopted at the state level and unpack them. We've used qualitative coding, predominantly an iterative process tracing strategy, to code the actual language of these executive orders to get a better sense of what states are doing and how they're responding to the COVID-19 crisis. In doing this, we've coded over 1,700 executive orders already, only in response to this initial series of closures, yielding around 70 categories worth of content. Each of these orders has been coded by multiple readers, so we feel pretty confident about our inter-rater reliability. Slide, please. The second tab of our dashboard allows us to leverage comparative policy analysis, right? So we drill down even deeper into the actual content of these individual executive orders. Of those 70 categories that we've coded, we've sort of bucketed them into a couple of different categories or sections, if you will. What you see here are suspensions, which are really the loosening of rules that help to expedite the response to COVID-19 at the state level. These might include things like, decreasing restrictions or rules, if you will, on public hearings or environmental regulation. So the restrictions that we focus on, these are going to be things we're all a little more familiar with, like stay-at-home orders, right? Except stay-at-home orders so far have been treated as very binary, 0 or 1, you either have it or you don't. What we're actually doing that's more innovative here is leveraging the nuance in these orders to ask and answer the question of which states are being more restrictive in their executive orders than others. So this is really meant to leverage that comparative element. Slide, please. What you see here is essentially a video clip of the stringency of these orders. So they're actually showing you over time the restrictions that have been leveraged by these states. And so you can already see some things, particularly politically, that you may not anticipate based on the restrictiveness of these orders. Slide, please. Our approach really has been to leverage sort of the disciplines and learnings from political science and public administration in an effort to understand decision-making in crisis around policy and these executive orders. So Peter is going to talk to you more now about what we've done and where we're going.
Slide, please. So it's important to note really that this dashboard, if you could move the next slide, please, is itself a central collaborative hub to understand these initial closures, but it's only one part of a larger project that really looks to understand how policymaking occurs during crisis. And we fully expect that each wave of the virus will bring new orders, new types of restrictions, and we want to continue to track it. And this is just one example of something that we've done for the state of Oklahoma, comparing what they've actually done through executive order to other states that are similar. And so we've worked with folks from both the states of Oklahoma and Indiana, and our work's also garnered attention across scholarly communities, public administration folks, political science, public policy. We have several book chapters and articles published or under review. Slide, please. So in terms of the next steps here, we're pursuing multiple funding opportunities. We have grant applications in progress and under review. We're focused on our data communications. We really want to build things like dashboards and case studies and a toolbox for policymakers. We're also really focused on mentorship and collaboration. We've worked with folks all around the world. We have a team of 5 graduate students, and we're only hoping to expand that. In terms of our next steps in research, we're really interested in exploring this stringency measure that we've developed and building its robustness. We also want to explore theories of power transfer, how politicians or administrators are given or delegate power to actually implement policy. We're interested in exploring the neural networks and text analytics space in terms of finding a way to automated code these orders. And finally, we really want to conduct a survey on enforcement and equity of enforcement in COVID-related policy, because we think that's an important area to explore. Slide, please. So we see this as a project that really goes well beyond the pandemic. We began tracking these orders and realized that what we were seeing was not just a response to the virus, but a huge shift in how policy is made at the state level. And by building things like real-time trackers, dashboards, engaging in this work that involves community partners and government agencies, we want to develop this into a really significant research agenda that can help us to understand policymaking at the subnational level from both a theoretical and a practical perspective. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Peter. Judges?
So will the research that you put forth, will that help to create policies across the states? Is that the goal, or just academic research?
We're hoping that it allows for more informed playbooks on pandemics moving forward. Because of the way that we've analyzed these stay-at-home orders so far in the past and their binary nature, we're not really capturing what all of these states are doing, because stay-at-home orders include some of the same things that other states are doing in their policy responses. So we're hoping that these new approaches and new measures leverage that variation in a more meaningful way to inform policy.
And I'll just quickly add to that yeah, we've actually, the state of Oklahoma requested that we submit a report to them, and we did, to both the director of public health there and their governor's office. And we've coordinated with some folks from Indiana as well, presenting to representatives from human and social services. So we are hopeful that it will have a real impact.
When did you start the project, and how often do you update the data?
So we started back in March when this initially happened, and really we're updating our categories in real time as these orders changed. We are still coding, so we are through the initial round of closures and are working on orders dedicated to the reopening now. The more students we have working on this, the faster the coding goes, but that's why we're looking at things like neural networks and text analytics to see if there are ways to leverage what we've learned in this iterative process tracing strategy to apply in a more automated fashion.
Yeah, and I'll add that we have a wonderful team of graduate students And one of the things that we're doing is pulling in these orders as soon as they come out and adding them to our queue, essentially, of orders that need to be coded, because we do want to keep up as best we can with what's really happening in the States.
Okay, thank you both very much. And a great presentation. Alex, I'll let you get the next one queued up. We are about 3 minutes behind. We'll certainly make sure that Christopher has the full 5 minutes, but we may need to be as quick as we can on getting the information to Alex for tallying the winners.
Okay, Georgia State, we are.
Okay, I'm ready. All right, hello everyone. So I'm here to talk about our Micromobility Lab, which was started as a mobility research and experiential learning hub. We were really a case study in resilience as well, as the COVID epidemic hit us really right in the middle as we were launching our program. And I also want to say that although only my name appears on this presentation, there's a whole group of people that have been involved in launching this lab and that have collaborated with us, and not just faculty at Georgia State University, but we have collaborators across the city of Atlanta in nonprofits, agencies, and planning units. So if you switch the slide, I can show you our laboratory. So this is downtown Atlanta. Many of you might imagine Atlanta as a very sprawling place centered around the automobile, which it is. However, if you look at the center of the screen, what you're seeing is downtown. If you look at the label 5 Points in downtown Atlanta, that's where the university is actually located. And the key things to note here is that it's a very dense area. We have connection to the MARTA, Metropolitan Atlanta Rapid Transit Authority heavy rail station. So there are actually 3 of these directly in downtown Atlanta. We have numerous bus stops from MARTA, as well as Georgia State University operates its own bus service. If you look at the bottom of the screen, kind of in the armpit of the highways there, Georgia State acquired the old Turner Field where the Braves used to play, and they've converted this to additional parking. So we have a dense grid. We have students that need to get around to their classes. We have a young student population who can use public transit, who can walk, and who can utilize micromobility. If you go to the next slide. So this is kind of an aerial view of the campus. You'll notice that we're surrounded by high-rise buildings with a high amount of density. And so we identified our region as really as a hub that we can do a lot of research on this micromobility thing that kind of materialized. Next slide, please. And so what I try to do with this slide is really capture what's happened. So there's a policy window that's opened. And it's a combination of the, ask forgiveness, not permission of Bird and the scooters that were dumped in Atlanta. At one point, we had prior to the epidemic, we had the highest number of e-scooters per capita in the country, or one of the places. So that initially opened the policy window, and then the COVID-19 epidemic, when it hit, it really presented challenges for everyone involved, particularly for public transportation. And so all of a sudden, where the advocates who've been lobbying for micromobility, bicycles, pedestrian access, and those kind of things, where they've been really struggling to get things going, when COVID hit and the e-scooters hit us, that really swung the policy window open. And now we're here, able to make these changes. There are people listening. The policy window's open. Next slide, please. So in the Micromobility Lab, as a backdrop, you see Atlanta. We're actually a city that's developing a more and more robust public transit network. If you can see the backdrop in the back, we raised a sales tax to fund public transportation. So this is something that's on the minds of students. And so what we did is in this micromobility lab, we have a cross-disciplinary approach. I have a cake in the middle. You're probably like, whose birthday is it? The idea is to think about how is the cake baked, right? So when we think about public service education, we don't just want to look at one aspect of what do public service leaders have to do. It's really a cross-disciplinary endeavor that involves lots of different viewpoints to be able to inform the decisions that our students will ultimately have to make, right? So, for instance, information asymmetry exists when, as a public leader, you don't have all of the information. And so by studying alongside people from other disciplines, you're exposed to more and more of these viewpoints. So we have, I teach a policy analysis course, for instance, where the main discussion point is micromobility. So the students can really engage with this because it affects them directly. It's a current event. And as these things get tied across different classes, they're able to build a more thorough and broader understanding. My colleagues and I teach in each other's courses. So I've given talks in the law school. My colleagues from the law school have talked to my policy analysis course. We had a micromobility lab course that actually we launched. And so this is kind of, the crux of everything. We launched it in the beginning of the semester in the spring. And obviously at the midpoint of the semester, we had the COVID epidemic that hit. What we intended to do is expose the students. Okay, so there's more that I could say, but the idea here is to involve the students in these projects on things that they're really interested in.
So I apologize for interrupting you. Let's see if the judges have a minute or two of quick questions. We are a little bit behind, and I know a few people have hard stops at 11:40. I don't know what happens at 11:40 if we get the boot or what happens. So are there any quick questions for Christopher?
There is a 10-minute grace period, Jason, but
okay.
Out of respect, we want to use as little of that 10 minutes as we can.
Okay. Any quick questions here from the judges? Okay. So if the judges can email your scores to Alex, we're going to test his math ability to come up with the winners. And just as a point for everyone, and I think everyone knows this, the winner of the competition will receive $10,000. The second place will receive $3,000. And the third and fourth place will receive $1,000 each to help advance these causes. So you are all already winners in one way or another with respect to the challenge. I think that what I'm supposed to do now, I'm looking at my notes, is to fill time, which I can do that with talking for sure. One of the things that we always do like to say, and I think Dean Weinberg was able to do this, that we are very proud of the challenge and the ability to carry on the memory and the legacy of George Voinovich that our school is named after. He was a very unique and committed public servant, was president of the National Governors Association and the League of Mayors. I believe I have that right. The only person in U.S. history to do that. Served as mayor of Cleveland and helped turn Cleveland around in the 1980s, then served as governor of Ohio and later a U.S. senator. But I think his heart was always with local and state government, and particularly looking at the ways in which we can drive innovation to work together to solve problems. One of his mantras was do more with less, which we are all doing more with less these days, certainly with some of the challenges that we face in higher education and in local and state governments with respect to revenue. So I think he would certainly be pleased to see all of the innovative partnerships here that you all are engaging in to address the challenges around COVID-19.
Jason, can I just say that the presentations were terrific, and the real winners are the students who work with all of you. So whoever wins, congratulations, but the winners are the students.
That's a great point. This is really creating a great learning environment for all of those students. Alex, did I hear you?
Sarah, I don't want to put you on the spot, but I guess
no, just 1 second.
Okay.
but Sarah was our winner from last year, and I was wondering if maybe you could give a very quick update on how things are going with your robotics project.
Yeah, so we do. So last year we have online and in-person programs, and so we are still in person with mask, I guess. But so we did get another robot last year with our award, and we did name it George after Senator Voinovich, who I actually had the honor of working for when I was an undergrad. I'm from Ohio, so it's just pretty cool. Yeah, so we are building our fleet, and students like the new robot. I think it's a lot more effective than what we've had. So it's just been really nice. So thank you.
You're still waiting, Jason?
Yes, I think Alex is summing things up. Do you want to make a few remarks?
Well, I just wanted to let people know, I mean, one of the things that, following what Chris said, it's the students and all of the work that everybody's doing, and it's the dedication to public service and servant leadership. And one of the things that happened last Friday is we changed the name of the school from the Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Affairs, the Board of Trustees, to the Voinovich School of Leadership and Public Service. And I think that more accurately reflects his career, and it also reflects the importance of public service now, which is these universities have shown dramatically. I was going to send Laurel a note on that, but I decided to, since I didn't realize we were going to be having a time frame here in terms of that.
Okay, hello.
All right, go ahead, Alex.
Everyone hear me okay? All right, so as stated earlier, everybody did a great job. I thought that these presentations were really put together well and really delivered well. You all did a great job overall. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and announce our runner-up, which are our second place winner, is going to be WSU and University of Washington, which will win the $3,000 second place prize. So congratulations to you on that. And I'll go ahead and announce the grand prize winner, which is the prize of $10,000, and that will be awarded to IUPU and University of Miami. So congratulations to you on that for winning the $10,000. So a round of applause for them. And both Cornell and Georgia State did a really good job as well, and they will both receive $1,000 for third and fourth place. So thank you all.
So congratulations, everyone. Kate Lehman will be in touch with you all with specific details about how you get the money. And you all work at universities, so you understand that things move slowly when it comes to processing funds.
We'll do our best.
Any final remarks, Kate, Laurel, Dean Weinberg, anybody want to have the final word here? Laurel, what about you?
Well, congratulations to all the participants. This was great to listen to all of this energy and resilience and responsiveness of our schools. I'm really excited to see these projects come to fruition. And I love this competition in part because I think the spirit of Senator George Voinovich is a reminder to all of us to raise up public servants and celebrate public service and the quality of public service, and also the spirit of bipartisanship. And it's just such a pleasure to have you all doing this at the NASPAA conference to both remember the senator and his spirit, and to celebrate this innovation in programming going on at our schools. Congratulations and thank you.
And thanks to all the judges for carefully listening and asking good questions.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. We will certainly be in touch with you about additional details for the prize money, as well as probably looking to get a quote or a few other things for newsletters, et cetera. So thanks to everyone, judges and panelists. We really appreciate it. Wonderful to see all of the innovative things that are going on around the country in our schools. So thank you very much.
Enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.